I'm so excited to have author Domonique Washington here today, aka Pastor D, with her sixth book. I said, you heard me right. Sixth book, and she's still smiling. Look at her, and she's really smiling today. Domonique Washington, how are you?
I am good. You know, that was crazy. When you said sixth book, I really sit here like, wow.
Wow.
6. Okay. Kind of OG in there.
You really are. You're like an expert at this point.
No, we're not going to go that far. But I should take you everywhere I go.
Oh, yeah.
Hype me up,
I'll be hype lady. Of course, of course. And she's still smiling. So guess what? My first question is the title. Like, how did you come up with the title? When did you know this is it? This is the title.
Well, the title actually came, it was the last chapter in the previous book.
Okay.
And it's this motto that I came up with about just enjoying the journey.
Oh, I like
and so when you get to singlehood, and when I was hitting 30 years old, I'm not gonna lie, I freaked out. I'm 30 and I'm single, and this was not what I had in mind. Like, okay, God, what we doing? Like, where you at? You know, the clock is ticking. And I just had to have this moment to realize that there's still something to smile about. Like, single is not the plague. It is not a disease. There wasn't a lot of things that I was necessarily doing wrong, but one of the main things that I was doing wrong is being miserable at the space that I was in. And I had to figure out how I can be excited about this space. It's just the box that I'm checking out. And single is not all bad. So I made a list of all the things that were good about single, and I decided that I'll be smiling. And when he finds me, I'll be smiling. And when we closed out the last book, that was the last title, and She's Still Smiling was a poem that I wrote. And we said, okay, God, I guess we're going to go with that one.
We're going to go with it.
Let's go with it.
I love it. And I love the fact that she says she's 30, but she looks 21.
I'm actually 35 now.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So look, I had to write notes, guys, because the book is so good. You have to get it for everyone. It is. I already had people, I was like, okay, my friend needs this. Okay, this. So listen, you have to get the book. Okay. I'm going to start off because, of course, the romantic that I am, you talk about, what is it? Girl meets guy story.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So, you know how we are. I'm going to go here. So when you did a very short version of your girl meets guy story.
Right.
So then my question for you is, how was it? And yeah, I know y'all want to know what we're talking about, but you're going to have to just get the book. I'm just saying. I'm nosy too, right? I get it. So my question is, what did that bring up for you to have to remember, even though you shortened the story, your girl meets guy story?
The reason I shortened it is because in the last book, Ever After Happily, I go in depth. And as I was writing, this is always a process where it's God and I are writing. I did not want to write this book. Okay, I didn't want to write it because I figured I had already written a book for singles. The next time I write a book about relationships, it'll be me and my dude, and we're going to write the book together. We're going to tell you how we had this journey and how it's beautiful and the wedding was great and it broke the internet, right? And guy was like, no, that's cute, but we still not there yet. And I was so frustrated. I was so angry because I was like, I don't want to write another book about relationships and I'm still single. But when he was taking me through the process of having to talk about that relationship yet again, that's why it's shortened. But it did take me back so I can see the growth. And as I was telling the journey about guy meets girl, and you're thinking it's the Ever After Happily, and you're remembering the day you went to look at engagement rings, and then it all just didn't work out. You know, guy marries someone else, and you're still single. But it brought me to the place of how much healing work God had done in my life.
Nice.
And so the guy meets girl story, the gloom that I thought it was going to be to have to talk about it again, was actually this story of grace and beauty. And I saw my maturity in having to go back and recall the moment girl met guy that wasn't the guy for her, but he was amazing for somebody else. And telling that I saw the grace in it, but I also had a little shout. praise God for that. But you know, it was growth and it was beautiful amongst the pain that I had to experience. So it was definitely a beauty for ashes moment.
I love it. I love it. Listen, guys, again, you're going to have to get the book to really understand. Well, you have to get your last book to get caught up, right, to this story. I love it. Okay, I have a quote from the book that I want to read. It says, "Our timeline binds us in cycles of depression, patterns of frustration, and momentary lapse in judgment, trying to create what we saw. That's no way to live."
Oh.
Ooh, let's take a deep breath.
Ooh. Woosah on that one.
Woosah.
So there were all of these things that you will recall, right? You remember the first date. You remember where you were, what you were wearing, what place you ate at. You remember the first holiday that you spent together. You remember his birthday, your birthday. And if you were like where the relationship that I was in, I mean, we had an anniversary for every month. You know how we do, being dramatic,
extra.
Right? All extra. So I remember the date. I wrote it down in hashtags. And so when I was going through the place of wanting to heal from that and needing to let go, I asked God to remove the memory, because I saw that I was planning for depression based upon the days that I can no longer celebrate. Planning for depression was unhealthy. It was toxic. So me remembering, oh my God, I don't even remember now. I think the birthday was in October. And I'm like, oh my God, it's October. And we would have been, oh my God, it's Valentine's Day. And I could have been. And I was like, wait a minute, you're planning for pain and it's not even here yet. How did you plan for a moment that you haven't had yet? And I saw the level of toxicity that was in that moment. So remembering and recalling those dates, while we think is a moment to celebrate, and I see that it's a celebration now, it actually, when you're all by yourself, the truth comes out. And you're sad. You're sad because, you know, it should have been this and it could have been that, and you're going over the moments. But when you're single, I found that it's not really healthy to recall all of those dates. Some of those dates I need to forget, and a lot of them I did. And a lot of them, it's not until I'm telling the story that I remember that it happened. And I was like, God, it was you. Because I probably wouldn't be where I am now if I just lived according to the dates that used to be. I was taking out the opportunity for me to experience the newness of the dates. And now February the 14th is just a day that we celebrate love, and I'm excited, right? Instead of it being Valentine's Day and I'm single. And that's just a place that I realized a lot of us need to grow. Stop recalling the past pain and allow your script to be rewritten and God to make something new out of a moment that no longer is.
I love that, because I think that we adopt the dates to stay in the relationship. Period.
Oh, I didn't think about it like that.
I don't want to let go. So then I'm going to attach to the grief.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's it.
That is attaching to the grief. That was the therapist in you just
deep.
Come out.
We just went deep. We got to come back up. Come back up. Okay. So you mentioned some of the single issues. I love the leg day in the gym and walking up the steps with groceries.
Right.
And so you talked about like the positive and the negatives, but then you said find more reasons to smile.
Right.
And so I think sometimes I was single and I was in church and, you know, I was preaching and doing all of those things also. So yeah, there are positives and there are negatives, but I think sometimes if we tend to lean toward the negatives, then you see everything as a negative.
Right.
And in your book, you're saying no, but you gotta find reasons to smile.
Right. I have this quote that I live by. I pinned it in one of the books. I don't remember. But if the negative is all you focus on, then the negative is all you will see.
I like it.
And so if you only focus on all of the downfalls and the discounts of being single, then you missed all of the good things that are there that I hear a lot of the married people talk about, that, girl, you better enjoy your sleep and enjoy your time. And so instead of me being miserable about where I was, I started to be mesmerized about where I had been and where life had taken me. And so there was a day, I had leg day, I had been in the gym, and I'm walking up the stairs to the apartment that I was staying in, and I was like, bruh, y'all don't complain about being single because, you know, nobody is there. I need you to complain about being single when it's leg day and you have to walk up the stairs, you know. So I would do this little funny on Facebook just to show people, like, you complain about being single because of a date, but there are other reasons that you could complain about being single, like my pet peeve, and I can't wait, and I hope, God, please send me a spouse.
Please, Lord.
Look, that's going to want to get up and turn the light off.
Yes,
that moment.
Yes, I've read that.
Like, yes, like you think about
good.
that, like, I don't care about being single because it's one income household. I care about being single when I forgot to turn the light off, like, bro, you know?
And it's cold. It's
cold,
chilly.
and you already settled, and then you like, bro, I made a decision. I'm going to just go to sleep with the light on and just put the covers over my head and let it be dark, right? And so I tried to make a light of it just to show people that even in those moments, there is still a joy to, you know, laugh about it a little bit and just live in the moment. And just found more reasons to be excited. Like,
I love it.
I don't have to check with nobody.
That's
I just buy what I want.
I read that. You can travel and go.
Go as out.
Now, look, you still have to kind of check in with the people that love you now.
I mean, I'm going to tell you that I made it, but I don't have to ask permission.
There you go.
I can just do it by myself. So I'm excited about that.
I like it. I like it. And hopefully you have a partner that's up and ready to go when you are.
Praise God.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Okay. Okay. So I read this, and again, I love this also. Waiting for your turn can feel like an eternity, especially if you've been single and supportive.
Oh.
I said, Mother just preached the whole sermon.
I forgot that I said that. So for the past, I went 5 years straight, and I was in a wedding every year.
Wow.
I am the friend that you called. I planned the engagements. I planned the bridal showers. I planned the baby showers. And I look back and I'm excited about being able to celebrate those moments. But I got to be honest and say that those moments may have been like, okay, God, we not yet. No, that's what we're going with, right? We're not here yet.
Right.
But then I was the person that's always excited. Like every one of my friends that have been married and gotten engaged, the husband, you know, now husband's fiance calling like, okay, Dom, so what we gonna do? And I'm helping them plan it out, and it's all exciting, and we getting t-shirts made, and it's the baby shower, and I'm helping with the games and doing all of these things, and it's a gender reveal. And both of my siblings, I was in both of their weddings, and I was excited to celebrate with them. But if your view is wrong,
right,
and
absolutely.
you're not, I was sincerely excited and proud for those moments. But I will be honest and say, in those moments of the first dance, I remember Ricky, when my brother got married, and his first dance song, and I was like, bruh, God, you're going to have to send somebody else to write another song.
Because that was my song.
That was going to be my song, right? But the moment was so beautiful that I don't even want to do their song. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, that means somebody major or somebody got to write another song. Her, where you at, fit another love song in there. But I did have those moments. And you have to be honest about that. Sometimes I think, especially when you're in church, we talk about being excited about being single, but sometimes we're not real about the fact that when you're the supportive person, that you do have a moment where you like,
for real, God.
For real, God. And it doesn't mean that your support isn't sincere. It's just that your humanity showed up.
Oh, yeah.
And in your humanity, you have feelings, and you could feel some type of way, but it didn't take away the fact that I can have a moment, wonder when it'll be my turn, but still be able to celebrate other people, and making sure that that moment of when it'll be my turn was only for a moment.
Right.
Because if it goes longer than a moment, you will find yourself battling envious, jealousy, and just not content with where you are. Yeah. But have your moment. Yeah. Have your moment, you know.
And that reminds me of the movie, The Bridesmaid, when she freaked out. I mean, for everybody who hasn't seen it, please see it. Please. You know, like it reminds me of the movie when she freaked out at the bridal shower, and the bride was like, why couldn't you just talk about me behind my back like everybody else? You know, but yeah, I like the fact that you're saying just have a moment and be honest with yourself, but then move on. Right. But then move on. I love that. So, okay, again, we have a lot of quotes, guys, because it was just that good. I'm going to quote. It says, "It was my goal when I approach this healing process, following heartache, to not just cope, but to become whole." Oh, the angels just sung.
Because one thing in helping.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna stop you for a second
Okay.
to say, how did you know that you were just coping and not on the journey to wholeness?
I knew that I was coping because I realized that nobody knew I was hurting.
Good, yeah.
It was several weeks. I think a week passed before I even told my closest friend at the time that I had made the decision to no longer be in the relationship. A month or so later, randomly in the kitchen, I was like, Mama, you know, by the way, it didn't work out, and just went on without the day. During that year, I want to say, I can't recall the year. That's the problem with that prayer. I want to say it was 2012. I just told y'all how long I've been single, but God, okay? So I want to say it was 2012. I had gotten a new position at work. I was the top teacher, working on being teacher of the year. I had gotten so many awards. I had my first teen conference, an entire youth conference where my role model, the person that I look up to, she was this preacher for the conference. I was so excited. And in that same year, I released my first book. All of this amazing stuff was happening. So in my mind, it wasn't as bad as it was, and I couldn't have been that bad off because I'm still going to work. I'm still going to work every day, but nobody knew I was hurting. Right. I'm having a conference and nobody knew. I am releasing a book and nobody knew. And I realized you used your busyness of being able to accomplish goal and tasks because I'm goal oriented. My goals became a coping mechanism. And it wasn't until I was sitting at a restaurant, and I was sitting across from Dr. Irisha, and she looked at me and she said, but how are you? And I looked back at her and I was like, I'm not okay. But it was a shock to me because I didn't know that I wasn't okay until that moment. And I started to question the people around me, like, how y'all didn't know I was okay? But then I looked back at myself and was like, well, you made it like it was nothing. So they matched your energy. And my energy gave off that I'm all good. It was just, made the decision, I'm good, releasing a book, made a decision, I have a conference. And the entire time I realized that my goals had become a coping mechanism.
Wow.
And in that moment of realizing I wasn't okay, I knew that any man that came behind him was going to feel the wrath that I was hiding.
Absolutely.
So if I didn't deal with it, I was going to take it out on somebody that was undeserving. And the hurt that I was experiencing was going to hinder the heart that was meant for me and that I was worthy of. And so I realized, man, you got to stop coping and you got to get whole. Because I was hurting. Sitting in church, opening prayer, preaching, and I was hurting. And it was in that moment that I said, I don't want to preach something that I don't live. If I'm going to preach healing and wholeness, then I need to live it first. And I decided, just, be a big girl, pull it up. Let's do some work. Let's unpack all of it. That's it was work.
Oh, it was work. And if you want to know how, you got to get the book.
You got to get the book, but it was work. Sometimes we tell people go get healed, get healed, and and I had to get in my bag and realize, okay, I have the preacher, and I have this word on the inside of me. But I'm going to need to call for some backup. I need a therapist. Look, I need your couch, your sofa, something. I need to call you because this is too much for me to handle. But I want to be able to handle all of it. And I want to so I had to do the work. And you know me, I had to face my emotions. That probably was the hardest part for me because I'm great at compartmentalizing. You know that.
Yes, ma'am.
So having to feel things was like a big deal. Like, feelings. What?
Get it out of here.
I need to cry? I am not a crier. I'm the strong one. Like, what? But having to cry. But I was afraid to cry.
Of course you were.
Because I thought I wasn't going to be able to stop. I thought that once I opened these tears, my friend, she was like, have you cried yet? And I said, I'm scared to cry. And I cried for 3 hours straight.
That's good. 3
hours straight. It was the scariest thing ever in life. And she finally was like, girl, you can't breathe. Like, come on, reel it in. But I wanted to be whole. I wanted to heal more than I wanted to hurt.
Right. And again, it's about the choice of letting go the hand of grief while grieving, so that you can pursue that wholeness. I have things to say. I'm gonna just
you know what I really did though before we moved? I looked up the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And I found out, even though I wasn't married, but losing someone that close was like going through a grieving process.
Absolutely.
And I walked myself through all of the stages. And I went in as if I had, you know, lost a loved one, because technically I did.
You did.
And I let myself work through the stages of grief. And I studied grief, and I studied healing. And I went through it as if somebody had just lost, you know, a parent.
Right.
And I allowed myself, and that helped me though.
Yeah.
It really did.
And I mean, even for people who have been divorced, it's the same thing. When you lose the love of your life, you lose the expectation.
Right.
And a lot of times that's what it is. Like, you love the person, you know, but sometimes when it doesn't work out, it's not all like they were the best thing. You realize, like, sidebar, they were a jerk. Sidebar. They were a little bit of a jerk, but then you're mourning the expectation.
Right.
Here I invested all of this, and now here I am again.
Yes.
It's the expectation.
It was the expectation.
Right.
And for me, it was the idea that I had set up in my head.
Yeah.
The fairy tale life, you have to understand, like, I was raised in a home of a marriage.
That's right.
My parents have been married. If I'm 35, they've been married 36 years. All I knew was husband and wife. They got married at 19. So I wanted to be the young girl doing ministry with a spouse, because that's all I knew. That's all I saw. And it dismantled this fairy tale that I had in my head. And that was the hardest part of the grief, because it took this idea that I had and it just broke it into
Shattered
pieces.
it. Yeah.
It shattered it into so many pieces. And here I was trying to pick it up and like,
no, God,
God,
no, get that. You didn't mean that.
And he was like, but I got to throw it all out. And I was afraid of that, because I didn't know what that was supposed to look like. I didn't know how we get to dating. How do you date people? How do you be somewhere where you're 24 and you're not even married? By 27, my mama had her last child. Like, this is not what it was supposed to be. I'm behind schedule. And he was like, no, you got to sweep that up. And like, even the little fragments of the glass is what does the hardest work. And that last piece, that's a whole nother book though.
And I'm gonna say that it's acceptance. The last piece, I think, is true acceptance of God's will.
True acceptance.
That was your mom's journey, but that wasn't your journey.
Right. And you know what happened? And I'm gonna give y'all some tea. Okay, just get your glass out. Okay. What happened for me is God literally, I still to this day don't understand why, but I do know why. I literally saw my ex on the day of his engagement, randomly. The day after their wedding, randomly. I see what I had in mind walking past me. And that was the moment that I accepted what no longer was.
That's right.
And I was able to. Now, hopefully God don't take you through nothing that dramatic. Because I was like, God, that's so dramatic. You so dramatic for that, right? But he knows that the creative in me and the poet in me, I literally saw it past me. And he said, and yet you're moving forward. And in that moment, I was like, okay, God, well, we doing it. And that moment for me was my last point of acceptance. Seeing them after the wedding day. What are the odds?
Come on.
What are the odds?
Really? Are you mad at me, God? Like, come on.
What are the odds, right? But I needed to.
Yeah.
I needed to, because that was the last little remnant that I needed to see. As what I wanted what I used to desire walked past me, he said there was more ahead of you, ahead for you, and move forward. And I did.
Wait a minute, I have to stop right here. I think you should say that to them. Tell them that there is more.
There is more ahead. It's more ahead. And that's what I wanted to pin with this book as we go through the process of learning to date towards the end of it. But if you don't face the things that you thought, if you don't face the past and deal with it, you never truly get to the things ahead, because you just dragging the past along with it. And he was like, you have to let that go.
You have to let it go.
I let it go, and there was more ahead. As we walked through the car, and it was weird because the whole family was with us, and it was just this awkward moment, but God.
But God, you got through, my friend.
Got through.
You got through. Now, I'm on to No Rules, Just Engagement. That's a chapter.
Yes.
Okay. So, the very first thing that stood out was Sierra's prayer. We're going to talk about that for a second, friend. Sierra did pray a good prayer, whatever that was.
Right.
But we can't pray Sierra's prayer.
No.
And why not?
Because that was Sierra's moment. Like, one thing that I talk about is how we talk about the prayer Sierra prayed, but Sierra also had to get rid of her future before she got to her Russell.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you catch
Did
it?
you catch
She
that?
threw it.
She had to get rid of her future before she got to her